Hello and welcome to another edition of Momentum. I'm your host, John Bricotto. Our guest today is Jennifer Easley, the business manager for the Bagley College of Engineering. Jennifer, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, John, for having me.
So I think most people could probably, deduce what your job entails from the phrase business manager, but a good place to start would be for you to talk to us about what you actually do. What is it you do as the business manager?
Okay, sure. So I'm actually housed in the dean's office, and so we lead a team of a few that do all the grants and contracts and purchasing and payroll for the college as a whole. However, we also have departmental business managers. So we're a pretty large operation. Our office just, anything to do with personnel, paperwork, anything to do with even your graduate assistantships. You would think, just about everything that happens in the college, we find a way to have our hands on it because you got to get paid. You got to get the accounts reconciled. So.
Right. All the important stuff. And so another topic we want to discuss is that you are pursuing a Ph.D. in engineering. I'd like to know more about that.
Sure. So actually I'm a MSU alum, so I'm actually from the business school. That's where my background is. I've got a bachelor's in accounting from back in, maybe I shouldn't say when, then I'll age myself.
Entirely up to you.
And pretty soon after I got a master's in accountancy, and then I went back a few years ago and got a master's in information systems. So I got a little bit of taste of distance through those degrees, but I'm just one who always likes to learn more, and so just trying to figure out what else I could do. And it seemed like most of my career is in academia, so thinking about just progressing, and if I ever want to take that next step, the PhD seems to be the thing to do. And so just looking around at different programs, what would work with me and my busy life. I've got 4 kids, so thankfully, well, I shouldn't say thankfully, I don't want the years to go by too fast, but they are getting a little bit older now. Right. So I have a little more time where I can breathe a little bit, because when you've got little ones, it's a little more difficult to have me time or study time or any of that. Right. So, I just looked at trying to go back and see what I could do. So PhD, it's very overwhelming, the thought about it. But when I was looking around at different programs, the thing that really appealed to me about engineering was that the fact that I could do that and still have a full-time job. That was the number one goal, because we're a dual income family in my household, so I need to be able to still contribute to that. And so looking at the college, at the time I actually didn't work in the College of Engineering, and so just the flexibility that it provided made me just feel like it was worth pursuing. Now, I will tell you, the thought of going back and taking calculus after 20 years intimidated me, because I still had to get 3 semesters of calculus in. But so my oldest son, he actually started in mechanical engineering in 2016. And so he was going to take Cal 2, and I thought this may be a good time to go try to take Cal 2. Maybe he can tutor me. It didn't quite work out that way, because freshmen want to get off and do their own thing and not tutor mom, but right. Somehow we made it through, and I got the prereqs I needed and got in the program.
That could have been some serious mother-son bonding, I imagine. And so what field are you actually in? What's your emphasis?
Yes, mine is in industrial and systems engineering. Okay. So with a business background, you might think, first of all, what's engineering even got to do with business? And it's really kind of interesting, because I worked in industry for a few years. So I have actually worked outside the university too. And one of the big things we emphasized there was things like lean manufacturing and process improvement, Six Sigma. You might hear some of those different things. So just ways to make, it was a manufacturing facility, so ways to make things run smoother. And so when I think about all my roles on campus over the years, I've always tried to go in, assess the situation, and how can we streamline, how can we make things go better? And so this seemed like a good field to try and see what I could do. I thought it was all about process improvement, but as I got into the classes, I realized it's so much more than that. It's about trying to find ways that things work together, taking a holistic view of things. So from my business background, I could see, cost accounting and how all those different costs play into how an organization works. But from the systems perspective, it's more about the movement and the how they work together. And so it's kind of been neat to look at different perspectives of pretty much the same thing. I mean, it's still the same factory manufacturing floor,
right,
but looking at it from different perspectives.
Okay, yeah. And so you mentioned distance. Is that the platform, by which you're taking classes? Is some of it on campus in person, or is it entirely distance?
I did have to, for my prerequisites, I had to take some of those on campus, like my calculus, because at the time there was not anything offered distance. Pretty much the last several semesters I have been truly distance. The thing I really like about it that, I told you I had a taste of distance in the past, and I know distance has changed a lot since over the years. But the thing I really like is, even though I was not actually present in the classroom, I felt like I was present, because what they would do is, so the on-campus group would be, the instructor would be in there teaching and all that, and we could see him or her as they were doing the lecture, but then also as students would ask questions, they had to press buttons so we could all hear. And a lot of the professors used some sort of discussion board or something like that so we could interact.
Okay. We'll use this pause to take a break, and we'll come back and talk some more.
Sounds good.
When you're the best, everyone wants to see what you'll do next. At Mississippi State University, our team of world-class rocket engineers is venturing beyond boundaries, building rockets like none before. We're launching a new era of space exploration. We've developed cutting-edge technology that's helping us build a rocket that can travel at 4 times the speed of sound. Fast? Yes. But more importantly, revolutionary. For you and for a space program that produces many of the conveniences we enjoy today. We're shaping your life in ways you never dreamed. What's next? Watch us and see. Imagine robots that give officers the upper hand in dangerous situations. We are at Mississippi State University, where we ring true.
All right, we're back with Jennifer Easley, business manager in the Bagley College of Engineering. So you just talked about how much you do, business office, schooling, everything else. That is a tremendous amount to balance. So how does one balance that with the having a family and your job and a Ph.D. program, which is a huge time commitment? How do you do that?
Well, you really have to learn what you can let go and what is most important. And it kind of reminds me of Stephen Covey's plan about the big rocks. I don't know if you've seen that, but you try to fill up this jar and you've got all these pebbles, and if you put all the pebbles in first and then try to put the big rocks in, it doesn't quite work out so well. So put the big rocks, the things that are important, and then let the other things fill in, I guess, wherever they might. So I had to think about really what's most important to me. And I don't ever want my kids or family to think that school, or even work for that matter, comes before just that true relationship with them. So trying to find ways to balance that. But I also think, John, it's important that children or your family sees that learning is important. So just letting them see me model that wanting to better myself. I mean, if I was just trying to be me and go through life, that's not much of a life to me. So trying to find ways to improve continuously, and that probably gets back into why I'm in the field that I'm in. But yeah, there were times there that I love to read. That's one of my biggest hobbies. And there were times there that I had not read a fiction book in a long time. So I will tell you, summer breaks or times that Christmas break, I would just take that time to just really relish in those things I enjoyed. So.
That's wonderful, and I, I couldn't agree more about the kids. I mean, it's one of the reasons my wife and I wanted to work on a college campus and raise them in a college town, is that they're literally surrounded by education. So you mentioned your son earlier, who is a ME student. What about the others? Do you have any aspiring engineers in the rest of the brood? Or?
I actually have one that just graduated high school here in town, and he is going into mechanical engineering too. So no pressure for the younger two after them too. They'll have to make their own path, I guess. Yeah.
But, So you mentioned here in town. Are you a native Mississippian, native Starkvillian? How long have you been around?
Well, I guess I might be considered a Mississippi transplant, but if that's the term for it. My dad was actually in Air Force, so he retired in Columbus. And so going, I was probably in grade school from then on. But my goal getting out of high school was to get out of Mississippi. As bad as that sounds to say to you here in this town, but that's what I wanted to do. And so I applied to several different universities, and at the time, I guess as cliche or crazy as this, or even just as not very thought out as this sounds, I met a guy and I kind of stayed for the guy, because the guy was going to Mississippi State, and that's all his parents were going to pay for at the time. So it's like, so I stayed at Mississippi State, or I came to Mississippi State. It seemed like the default choice to me, honestly, and there was a little bit, but I just can't even imagine the path that things would have taken if I'd not done that. I think you hear it a lot in the news about MSU and just the family that MSU is, and that's really true. I mean, and I think it goes back to just the college environment. I think if I'd gone straight out of high school somewhere else, I probably would have gone into industry or so. And industry has good things to offer. I think it's just, for me and the things we've talked about, that working at the university is something that I've really enjoyed doing. So it's funny because this past year I was in the Mississippi Economic Council has something called Leadership Mississippi. And so it's a program, it's like the second oldest leadership program in the nation, like the governor's been through it even. So there's a lot of industry leaders, a lot of university leaders, there's about 50 of us. So it was kind of an honor to even be chosen. And so we went through the whole year, we visited different areas of Mississippi, and just the challenge was to change the narrative of our state. If we aren't telling our story, then someone else is going to tell it for us. So I learned a lot about Mississippi, and it gave me a better appreciation that maybe I didn't make the default choice after all. Maybe there was some fate or whatever made it happen.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's an incredible story, and I thank you for being here and sharing it with us today, and best of luck with the Ph.D. program and everything else you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I need it.
That's our show for today. Remember that you can follow us on social media at MSU Engineering on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching.